Hello, everyone. Kate Byers. Hi, everyone. Kate Byers, founder of Corporate Women Unleashed. Welcome to today's live broadcast. And whether you are watching this live or recorded, I want to make sure to invite you to leave comments, questions, and participate a little bit. This is a conversation for women in the corporate environment who are successful high achievers and are feeling like you're not living a thriving life. All right. Corporate Women Unleashed, what we do is we help executive women who are feeling like they either need to step back, like they're burning out, or that they're simply not thriving in their career and in their personal life. We show you exactly how to do that because the myth that there has to be a trade-off is simply not a myth. We don't have to keep working that way. And today we're talking about a really cool topic. It's habits that executive women have that are holding you back and limiting you, okay? Now, a lot of the ways we try to work in our careers have to do with external factors. And you guys know, if you've watched any of my broadcasts long enough, that a big missing piece in corporate training is training you how to be the better version of you, right? And so we're told a lot of things we're supposed to do. We're supposed to delegate more. We're supposed to speak up. We're supposed to, not be afraid of decision making, be more decisive. We have all these things that we're told to do. But a lot of times we have psychology that is holding us back from doing it as well as we could or truly effectively so you can thrive in your career. And a few of those things I want to talk about today are, for example, high achieving women tend to a lot of times be perfectionists. How many times have you said, oh, I like all the I's dotted and the T's crossed? Now, personally, I am not a perfectionist. I tend to not have that issue myself. But for a woman who is a perfectionist, a lot of times your lens of the world, which things have to be a certain way, they have to be a certain quality. Oh my gosh, there's a mistake in the presentation that I just gave to the board is like traumatizing, right? When you have that perfectionist lens, what it does is it tends to hold you back from really stepping into that really executive level mindset and up-leveling your mental game because it pulls you back into way too much execution, way too much worry and concern. And what happens a lot with the perfectionist mindset with that lens is we tend to micromanage a little bit too much, or at least have to have a lot of oversight on our team's work. And again, that's not how we lead great teams. That's not how you lead your team to greatness. That's not how you help your staff become the best they can be. So if you are kind of stuck in that perfectionist mindset, that is a mental shift that has to change. And we're going to talk about how to do that in just a second. So hold on. But if you're a perfectionist or you find yourself to have perfectionist tendencies, I want you to type in the comments, perfectionist. Right? I mean, just go ahead and let's have that conversation. Please don't hold back because there's another woman out there who's going to be like, oh gosh, she's a perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist too. Right? So it's very helpful to know that you're not alone in your thinking because women do think differently than men. We need to celebrate that, but we also need to see where it's holding us back from living lives that are really thriving. Okay. The next lens that I want to introduce you to that a lot of high achieving women have is the worrier. Okay. The worrier is someone that always has to have a plan B, likes to have a map, wants to know the game plan. Where are we going? What are the steps? What are the milestones? Let me figure out what all the different pieces are, and then we can start moving forward. Oh, but by the way, we need plan B and C as well. Okay. Do you find yourself worrying? Do you find yourself laying in bed at night worrying? Thinking about, oh, there's all these different things we forgot, or what if this goes wrong, or what did that mean? What did that person say? How many times have you sat in a meeting and perhaps thought you were supposed to understand, what someone else was communicating, and then you walk away and go, ooh, I don't really know what they meant. Did they mean this or did they mean that? And then you're festering and worrying and having all this anxiety. Anxiety and achievement comes hand in hand. It doesn't have to, but it's very normal in the high achiever mindset to have a lot of anxiety. And worrier is a very common lens for high achievers. So if you find yourself to be a worrier, someone who always has to have a backup plan, imagine how that limits your ability to take risks. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't want to take calculated risks. It doesn't mean that we need to understand the potential consequences or ramifications of decisions we're going to make. But at the same time, as you are stepping into more of a leadership role, an executive role, into the demands and stress that this naturally comes with it, you have to be able and much more confident and competent in your own decision-making process. So you're not constantly living in the world of the worrier for two reasons. One, it's going to limit how clearly and quickly you're able to make good, solid, strategic decisions. And two, it's going to haunt you every night when you go home. Because even if you make the decision quickly, now you're going to worry about it all night long. Now your family's going to see you distracted. Now you're going to go home and bark at everyone or kick the dog or hit the sofa with a bowl of Cheerios instead of the gym, right? Because that's what happens when we are taking this lens with us into our personal life as well, or not feeling totally competent and confident with how we are navigating in our workplace. Okay, so that's the warrior. Another one I want to introduce you to, which is one of my favorites because it's one of mine, is the hero. Now, these are all just personas, guys. And so these personas, what they do is they're not a box for you to live in. I don't like labels. It just gives you a generalized idea of some common behaviors and that lens that you may be operating under that is limiting your success at work, but it's also limiting you from having success in your personal life and really enjoying the fruits of your labor. Okay, so that's all they are. Don't anyone get all caught up in like, oh, I'm a warrior, and start running around telling everyone you're a warrior. It's like high achiever, right? It just gives us sort of a general idea of what that persona is. So if you're a warrior and you're someone who likes to always have a backup plan, just write warrior in the comments. Like, oh, yep, I'm a warrior. I can identify with that one. Okay, hero is the next one. Hero is someone who kind of steps in. It's a bit, this is going to sound a little negative, but it's a bit of a martyr, right? Like the heroes are like, oh, I'll take it all on. But it's because down deep, we kind of feel that we're the best choice anyways. It's like we don't almost trust that our team, our colleague, our vendor, the client, the leadership team, whatever, really has it, you know? And so it's sort of like, just like a hero would go into battle. I'll go into battle. I'll do all the tough projects. I'll take the big challenging ones, because down deep, we don't really think anyone else can do it as well as us. Well, obviously, if you are playing under this hero lens, what do? You sign up for every tough assignment. You worry that if you're not taking it on, someone else will take it on and screw it up. It's harder for you to fully delegate. I cannot tell you how many of the women that we work with that this is a major hindrance to their joy in their career. Yeah, they're delegating. Yes, they're leading teams. Yes, they're good leaders, but they're not fully coaching and developing their team. There's a really big difference, right, between delegating and saying, hey, here, can you get this done? And coaching and mentoring and leading a team, okay? Huge difference. And we don't get enough training on that. And as I'll communicate in just a second, if you've got this psychology, this lens, it doesn't matter how much training you get in the world, you're always going to fall back to this lens as your habit and your comfort zone when you are under stress. Well, when are you under stress as an executive? Every minute of the day, right? And so think about that, right? And we'll talk about this more in a second. But the hero is someone who really prides themselves in sort of rushing in and taking on the tough stuff, right? And again, if you're the hero, a couple things happen. One is it's always you. You're always the workhorse. You're the one always showing up for all the tough assignments. Really hard for you to say like, hey, you know what? I'm going to let that assignment go to someone else. This is what our team is really operating on over here, and we need to be fully focused. We'll let Bob, Joe, John, Sally take on that. Oh, that would just kill a hero, right? Like very difficult to let go. So that hero lens can really, again, hold you back from thriving in your career, but also just disconnecting and going home and saying, yep, Sally's got that. I've got this. We're all good. Heroes have a big issue with letting go. And so if you're a hero, put it in the box. I know I will after the broadcast's over. Hero, because that is one of my workplace habits and some of my psychology that I had to discover and escape away from in order to propel my career forward in a way that I was experiencing great well-being. Okay. I was trying to think of a couple other ones that we could talk about. I was trying to think what else I put in the notes. Let me go look real quick, because I had some good ones in there. Oh, the lone wolf. Oh, how could I forget the lone wolf? My gosh, so many achievers are lone wolves. All right, a lone wolf, which I will have to say I operated under this as when I first started in my career. Some of this fell to the wayside as I matured. But the lone wolf is someone who prefers to kind of do things on their own, right? And it's similar to the hero in where you don't really trust that other people can do the work, but it's like you just prefer to, it's not that you're not a team player, but you prefer to solve the problem and then come back to everyone with the recommendation. You prefer to sort of like, okay, great, I hear you, and then go off to your space, work on it all night long. And then you show up the next morning and go, oh, look what I've done, everyone. And now no one else has to do it because the lone wolf did it. So it's very similar to the hero, but it's not so much as thinking others can't do it. It's just this real comfort zone and this preference for like, I need to take this on myself and do it all myself. Joanna, the hero. Hi, Joanna. It's good to see you. One of our amazing clients. So yeah, so the lone wolf can be someone who isolates themselves. They can also be sometimes, when you have that lens, a bit combative, not intentionally, but because the lone wolf feels like they really need to work on it themselves and they have the answers. A lot of times when a client challenges you, a leader challenges you, your team challenges you, you can be sometimes a little bit challenging back. Versus someone who is able to really influence with grace and, and authority, it tends to be a little bit like, yeah, that's interesting, but let me go off and just do this myself. Great idea. I'll go off and do this myself is how it kind of is perceived. And obviously, if you're always going off to do things on yourself, if you prefer to work in your own space, there's times that is important. There's times that we need that alone time, certainly. But at this point, it shouldn't be every project, every decision, every strategy is in isolation. You really have to learn to remove that lens and see how it's hindering you from your own well-being and freedom, even though it feels so good. And that's the thing you have to remember. Each of these sort of personas that I'm introducing to, these workplace habits, they feel good. Okay. They don't feel bad, which is why we do them. They feel good. And so just like eating chocolate cake feels good until you've like finished the last morsel and you're like, oh, whoops, I just ate that entire plate of chocolate cake. When these habits are so ingrained in us and in our psychology, it's really hard to break out of them, right? And so if something feels good, why would you do it any other way? Got it? Okay. So you can see now, though, how these things probably served you in your youth when you first began your career. Oh my gosh, everything you came off your desk was perfect. All the I's were dotted, the T's were crossed. And what happened? You got promoted quickly, right? You were a worrier. You made sure no balls dropped. You had a game plan and a backup plan. And oh my gosh, all of your bosses all along the way loved this about you. You were promoted. You were the hero. You jumped in and took every hard assignment. What happens? You were promoted. You were the lone wolf. Wow, she goes off and does all this stuff on her own. And it's done in half the time in the team. You were promoted, right? And so these are things that it can be very confusing as we step into the upper echelons of our career. And this is why so many women get to that level of like, wait, I've arrived. I am the executive now. I do lead teams. I've got a voice at the table. Why am I miserable? Or why am I not fulfilled? Or why is this still so hard? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that your lens has not changed. And I think if there's any disservice we are doing executive women, whether it's through executive coaching, therapy, executive training programs, it's this piece that is missing. And this is like the heart of what we do and what we teach is when you understand human behavior, your human behavior, and you understand how to up-level your mental game and remove these lenses or see them for what they are. This is simply a lens. This is simply how I am seeing and interpreting this scenario. And there's a lot of different ways to resolve this other than what I feel compulsed to do. What is my comfort zone? When you can start cracking that egg and breaking that apart for yourself, guess what happens? Freedom, right? Fulfillment, different decision-making. Now, here's the real kicker. It's hard to break the egg, right? It's hard to break out of these personas and these lenses because they're habits that have been baked into you since childhood. If you were a lone wolf, chances are you were a lone wolf when you were in elementary school. If you're a hero, chances are you were a hero in elementary school. If you're a warrior, chances are you grew up a warrior. I mean, these are things that have been with you 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever years. And now all of a sudden it's like, wow. I mean, for me, it was just like blew me away once I realized this has been holding me back. Right? I am in my own way. It is not my corporation. It is not my boss. It is not my leadership team. It's not my client. It's not the pressures of my job. It's me. It's how I'm showing up at work. So here's the kicker though. The kicker is there's two ways well, let's just say three. There's three ways to manage through this, right? So you can actually start problem solving differently, disconnect, and go enjoy your personal life. The first way is you can step back in your career, which I'm not a big fan of. If you want to step back because there's something really passionate that you want to do and it excites you, I'm all for it because I don't think in that case it's stepping back. I think you're just moving to something different. Okay. So let me be really clear about that. So stepping back is, well, whatever. I was, I don't know, a vice president. Now I'm going to step back to director, thinking that I'll have less pressure and more personal time. That's where this doesn't work, right? And so you can try that, but sometimes it does. But sometimes what happens is you're so resentful because now you're living in a world that's less authentic, or you haven't changed your lens. So you're still just working as crazy as ever. A lot of times that doesn't work. Okay. But this is sort of like what a lot of therapists, like if you go to therapy for some of these issues, I'm a workaholic, I go to therapy. That's what they'll try to kind of convince you to do. Why don't you just let go of all this? Why is your career so important? What's the big deal? Go home, have dinner. Who cares? We care. I care. I love my career. It's a piece of me, as well as the rest of my life, right? And so what it's really about is learning how you can have success in all these different areas without having to trade off one or the other. But one solution is obviously step back. And we see that a lot, sadly, with women who are stepping back from really incredible careers because they can't figure this piece out, right? And that it's heartbreaking. The second thing is you can use willpower. Okay. So just like on a diet, if you ever gone on a diet and you're like, I am going to do sit-ups every day. I don't care how hard it is. I'm not going to eat chocolate cake. I'm going to eat salads, and, I'm going to do keto. I'm going to do paleo. I'm going to do Weight Watchers, whatever. And so it's all willpower. I mean, you are just gritting it out day after day, forcing yourself to go through this diet, and you get some results. And about 2, 3, 4, 6 months down the road, you're like, oh, look at me, I lost 10 pounds. And then boom, all of a sudden something happens in your life. Stress happens, kids happen, careers change, spouses change, whatever, the stuff of life happens. And where do we go? We revert back to our former eating habits. Why? Because we used willpower to go on the diet. We didn't change our habits. Right? So it's the same exact thing. So a lot of times when we are explaining this to women, whether they're on a career strategy call with us or, first coming into our program, we're like, look, there's 2 ways you can do this. You can just grind through this and force yourself to start making different decisions at work. And it'll work a little bit. You can let a report go out that has a typo on it. And even though it just kills you, you use willpower not to get upset. And you just you kind of talk yourself down off the ledge. Or you allow a team member to step up into a role that normally as a hero you would want to take on, and you do it, you talk yourself through it, and it just kills you, but you do it. That's willpower. Okay. That's not quality of life. It's not well-being. That's you just forcing yourself to behave in a way that feels unnatural, that doesn't feel good, and it's not sustainable. Okay. So what's going to happen is it's going to work a few times and you're going to go, oh, look at me. I made these huge changes. And it happens for like 2 or 3 months. It happens for 2 or 3 weeks. And then boom, there's going to be some rug that's pulled out from under you, as it happens all the time in our careers. The company's going to change. There's going to be a restructuring. Something will change in your personal life, and boom, what do? You go right back to your habits and right back to your comfort zone. And so that's why, as women looking to achieve and earn and stay and have fun at the executive table, and really find that fulfillment of and balance between personal life and professional life, you have to change your mental game. And I can't say this enough in these broadcasts. If you are not changing your mental game and where you live mentally and emotionally, and you're staying in these habits that you've had since youth, you're not creating sustainable change. It is a willpower grind, and you will rock backwards into old habits, just like you'll fall off your diet. Okay. The third way to address this, which is what we do with our clients, is we actually help you understand where that behavior came from to begin with and how to no longer need it, right? And so if I no longer need this behavior to protect me or to care for me or to do the things that it originally did, which was help serve how I felt about myself in the workplace and my value and help me feel confident and capable. When you can start finding confidence and capability and strength in who you are for your value, instead of from these workplace habits, now all of a sudden you're free of the habit, and the habit doesn't feel good anymore. In fact, you don't like the habit and you'll start noticing it. And that's what the things that we teach our clients is, now you can start seeing how these habits have been limiting you in your decision-making and how you're navigating your career and how you're managing, upwards and downwards. Now, when you see those habits come into play and those decisions come into play, you can go, okay, got it. That is a habit. That's what we call them, a script. That's a script. I'm acting like a hero. I'm acting like a warrior, whatever it is. That's simply a lens what other solutions, what alternate solutions are available to me right now? And one of the more powerful pieces of what we do is we actually offer all of our clients an ongoing membership group or group where they can just be a part of, right? So they can actually tap into other executive women who are going on through the same journey and saying like, how would you guys handle this? Wow, something just came up. I know that this is my lens and I've gotten rid of most of it, but every now and then there's a little residual, poke. Here's a couple of different strategies I'd like to try. Has anyone else tried this? And it just gives you that added boost that you're on the right track, right? And so having that group of women who are actually supportive, because I think you all have experienced, I know I have, a lot of times as women, we're not supportive of each other, especially if we work in the same company. Sometimes we are, sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're too competitive. So that's another piece, which is once you've removed the emotional trigger, which has you sort of clinging to the habit, and you resolve that, now your lens is simply one of curiosity, capability, able to take more risks, able to see more options, and you're no longer sort of trying to protect yourself in this way of working that, again, worked well for you for a long time, but it's not working at this point. And that's why you've gotten to this level and you're feeling trapped. You're feeling like you're in a gilded cage. You're feeling unfulfilled. Wow, I've got all the pieces of my life here that should be great, but I'm not feeling great. How do I thrive and not have to give up this life I've worked so hard for, but how do I enjoy it, right? Like that's sort of the crux of the issue. And 99.999% is removing this lens. And then once the lens is removed, then moving into some new strategies, right? Obviously now we can make different decisions. We can make more effective decisions. We can navigate, we can create different scenarios for results. So that's the other piece that's really important, right? So listen, I hope this has been a fantastic broadcast for you today, and hope it's been enlightening. Again, if you've been watching the broadcast and you identify with one of those lenses, I mentioned hero, I mentioned perfectionist, I mentioned warrior, and I mentioned lone wolf. Stick it in the comments below, because again, those are habits and workplace habits that limit what you're capable of, not only in your career, but in really how you can disconnect and powerfully enjoy your life and feel like your cup is full, right? Like your needs are important. We know that. And so if we're not fulfilling our needs, then it just becomes this cycle of feeling like you're the hamster trapped on the executive wheel or whatever, right? So if you have any questions, again, put them in the comments. Even if it's recorded, we always come back and look for those, and we're happy to respond. And if you are an executive woman who is highly successful, you're in a demanding career and you are not thriving, right? You are ready to up-level your mental game. You're ready to bring the level of performance you know you should in that position that you're in, but powerfully disconnect and go enjoy your personal life, thriving in where you're at. Then I want you to book a call with us. And on the call, what we do is we just sort out for you what's going on, what are some of the root causes, is there a game plan, what's possible for you, and give you some ideas. And if what we do can help you, cool, then we'll totally tell you. If not, what we do is we send you somewhere else or get you some other resources. But we want every woman to be really clear on what's available to her and what's possible. Now, the call is not for women who are up and coming in their career, learning how to be leaders, want some career coaching and that type of thing. That's not what we're talking about. We work with executives who want a very high level of well-being and are willing to do what it takes to get there. So that is who the call's for. So if that's you, please book a call with us. We'll put the link below, and I'd be delighted to speak with you, and we'll just chat and see what's going on with you and how we can help, or how we can get you some help. So thank you everyone for coming to today's broadcast. Again, Kathleen Byers, founder of Corporate Women Unleashed. Delighted as always to have this conversation and share this video, right? There's another woman out there who needs this message. It may not be you, but it may be a friend or a friend of a friend. So make sure someone else gets the message. We don't want women having to step back, burn out, and simply not thrive. An audacious career does not mean sacrifice. So let's start changing the conversation together. Thanks everyone. Bye now.